Welcome to The Diamond Mine, the ultimate revenue building and profit inducing podcast created solely for specialty retail jewelers. Your host, master marketer, and creator of the Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind Group is Diamond Bill Warren. On each episode of the Diamond Mine podcast, you'll discover hot tips and trends to keep you ahead of the curve. You'll learn about the latest technology designed to make your business even more profitable, and you'll also hear from some of the movers and shakers of the jewelry business. And now, buckle up, take notes if you can, and welcome your host for today's excursion into the Diamond Mine, Diamond Bill Warren.
Hello, everyone. It's Diamond Bill Warren, the Jeweler Success Coach, creator and founder of the Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind Group and the Diamond Mine podcast radio show. Today, it's my extreme pleasure to have my friend Rita Wade of Sparkling Insights with us. And she is certainly a mover and shaker in our industry. And I've long admired all the things that she does for not only retailers, but vendors. A very talented lady, and I think most of you already know that. And if you don't, you're going to be amazed. Rita has certainly helped me, helped many others. And Rita, thank you for being with us on the Diamond Mine today.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me, Bill. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to be on your podcast because I, too, have thought you have been a wonderful mover and shaker within the jewelry industry. And I think what brings us together most of the time is that we are jewelers. We are retailers. We have walked the path that you are walking right now, as well as providing some insights and some coaching and consulting to the industry. And because of we're in the trenches right there with you. Because of that, I feel like it does help retailers understand that we have their back. We understand them. We know what they're going through. So I feel like that's our connection. And, I'll never forget the time when I heard you speak the first time was at the Jeweler Suite in Las Vegas.
Right.
Was the first time I heard you speak. Of course, I'd known you well before that, but never heard you speak. And so I was mesmerized by that because of the fact that you had such an incredible following at that point, and you were saying the same things that I say. And there's nothing better than to surround yourself with people that are like-minded. So thank you, Bill. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Rita, you're so young, but you've been around for a little while in the business.
I'm not sure I'm that much younger than you are.
Oh, trust me, you are.
I just have more hair.
Yeah, you have a lot more. Tell the listeners and our viewers, how did you get into all this? How did you get into the jewelry business? And obviously, tell us about your husband, John, what he does. Just give us a little bit about your background.
So my background really is in marketing. I began my career. I graduated from college in business and marketing, and then I also have a degree in accounting and computer science. And so I met my husband in my hometown. And I was working for the largest nonprofit marketing company in the United States. And I was their staff accountant. And to be honest, it is kind of a funny thing. My room was adjoining the safe, so no windows. And imagine a live wire social butterfly like me in an office with no windows adjoining the safe. How awful. Anyway, but I loved that job. It was a great job. And I met my husband that year. And he's actually here to tell me that he's got my dinner ready. Is that right? Okay.
Oh my goodness. Hello, John.
Come around and say hi to Bill. And so my jewelry career, there you go. This way.
Hey, John. There he is. Good to see you, my friend.
My jewelry career really was met through my husband, who's a master jeweler and has over 40 plus years in the jewelry industry. And we met, believe it or not, we met because I was previously married, and I dropped off my jewelry to be made into something new, and
Ah,
I met this lady who said, the jeweler will make this beautiful piece of jewelry. And she kind of showed me some samples, chicken scratched on a piece of paper, and said, come back in 2 weeks, it'll be done. So I came back in 2 weeks, and
mhm.
he was there on a Saturday, which he later says that he was a jeweler. He didn't work Saturdays. He paid his dues and he did not work Saturdays. But in 10 years, and was it 10 years? In 10 years, he'd worked 2 Saturdays. And that's the day I walked in, one of those 2 Saturdays. And I started to chat with him, and he says, well, I'm getting ready to quench the mold. And I said, oh, I would love to watch that. And he says, well, come on back and you can watch. Uh-oh.
She had on the tightest pair of jeans you ever seen in your life.
Uh-huh. Now the truth comes out. I was going to say something like this was a magical, fortuitous moment, but now we see where this is going.
Oh my goodness. And this is going to go live.
Hey, I'm just curious because I don't know. I know you live in Rocky Mount, but you were talking about your hometown. Where is that?
Iowa. Mount Pleasant, Iowa is my hometown. And so anyway, I go back to watch the casting and to quench the mold. And I notice he has a wedding band on. And I say, oh, I bet your wife has beautiful jewelry. I'm just like complete blonde, completely oblivious to it. And he said, she didn't necessarily love jewelry, but I'm a widower, and I still love giving it and making jewelry. And I just like, could I have found a bigger hole in the floor to jump in? And, so later on that day, and I'll speed up the story, later on that day, I decided I was going to call him and invite him to a play. And when I called to invite him, being the, spirited person that I am, when I called to invite him, we were still using landlines back in the day.
Right.
And the phone didn't ring on the other side. And so he was calling me to invite me to dinner. So we went on our first date that night. He brought me the
John.
finished piece of jewelry, all wrapped up beautifully to pick me up for my first date.
Wow.
We went on our first date, and 3 weeks later, three weeks later, he asked me to marry him. And three months later, we were married. We've been married in March. Will be 27 or 28 years, 27 years. It'll be 27 years in March.
That is amazing. Good move, John.
Yeah. Yeah. There were two great moves with him. I love jewelry. Let's just say that. I really love jewelry. It's really, if I have two addictions, one of them's jewelry, one of them's chocolate. But needless to say, his second one is he does all the cooking.
I've noticed the videos, the pictures. He must be a master chef.
He is a master chef. And I will tell you, I am a very kept woman. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, so you got married. You've lived this incredible life.
Yeah.
How did you get to Rocky Mount, North Carolina? I know at one time I think you had a full-blown jewelry store, and tell us how that kind of evolved over time.
So that's an interesting story. So we had 2 kids each. We blended our families, and we knew that as young parents trying to blend this family together, we couldn't do it in each other's homes. We were going to have to start over somewhere.
Right.
And he was ready to start over. And so he hired Charlotte Cody Consulting, which is a jewelry consulting firm. And they found us a job in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And so John worked for a retailer locally that he worked there for just short of 2 years. And in that period of time, there was an awful lot of people that were coming in that discovered that he was a hand engraver. the retail store, even though, they'd looked at his resume, they didn't they didn't believe that he was a master hand engraver. So they were quite surprised by the fact that he was, doing what he was doing, and custom designing, carving waxes, hand engraving, setting stones, lapidary. He was a true master. He is a person that is doing every part of the process. And so it was one of those cases where he was getting stores from all over the state of North Carolina finding out that he was the hand engraver. I mean, it'll be 28 years ago that people, started sending us work. Sure. Well, within 2 years, he had as much work coming in from outside of that store as he was while he was in the store. And it was my decision that I encouraged him that we could go out on our own. So for about 9 years after that, we operated out of a studio on our property as a jewelry, a wholesale jewelry, hand engraving, and custom design studio. And then my kids grew up, and I got this harebrained idea that I needed to go and work retail.
Okay. And how did that work out?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I wanted so badly. I was young. I wanted so badly, nothing more than to take all of the skills that I had developed over the years in marketing and convert it to a retail experience. And so I begged my sweet husband to help me open a retail store, and he obliged. He wanted to see me have my dream. And for 10 years, I had a retail store. I actually had 2 retail. I went from 1 to 2 like overnight. My second store was a really cool gift, and it was a gift store, high-end dishes, paper, gift clothing, etc. It was a really cool. It was called Bliss Fine Papers and Gifts. And then, of course, next door was Wade Designs Jewelry, and 14 employees. And it was a lot. It was a lot for one major person to run all at once. And my whole family worked there. And in short time, I realized how hard that was for everybody to work under the same roof. And and so it was January 10th, 2015 that we closed that store. And it came about, it's kind of a funny story. My whole life is like this one long ending cool story that everything seemed to, God knew and propelled me into the next thing. Every single thing. I can't take any credit for any of it. But the funny thing is that year, in August of that year, I went to the IJO show, and I took a team member to the show, and she was a shopper, and it was at Copley Plaza in Boston. And I said, okay, we'll take lunch and you can go shopping, but your butt better be back at Shane Decker's class. I mean, this is important. I'm paying you to be here. It better be here. And so come about 1:00, I'm looking at my watch. I've zipped in, sat down at the class, and she's not there. So I'm texting her and saying, where are you? Why are you not in this class? She says, text me back, and she says, where are you? I'm in the class. And all of a sudden, the speaker comes on, and what had happened is that, of course, you can imagine Shane Decker, they had to switch the rooms, change the signs, but I didn't notice it. What I was reading was what was on my little brochure. And I sat down in a class that was all about the next steps. I had accidentally, or so I thought, accidentally sat down in a class that was all about the next steps. Whether you were retiring or whether you were, handing it down to your children, or whatever the case may be. And here I am, eager beaver, type A personality, always sat at the front of the class, sitting at the front of the class, taking notes, iPad in front of me. And here I am sitting here. So, I listened to that class, and 1 week later, my landlord walks in after that situation and says, by the way, the road in front of your store is closing for 2 years for bridge repair, and you're being given the option to move with and get out of your lease with no recourse. And the timing of all of that was pretty perfect. I couldn't have, so within a few days, I went to sleep thinking about it, praying about it, and feeling like that was, if God had ever provided a neon sign for me, that was it. It was like, it's time. It's time for you to quit the rat race of, 15-hour days, and your family often being second, not first in your life. And, or several, it was work first, then family, then God, or, it was always like mixed up, and not in the order that it should have been. And I woke up one morning, I made a phone call, and by the next afternoon, I had made the decision to close my retail store. And so propel myself into that January 10th, 2015. And everybody asked me, you're young, you're in your early mid 40s, what the Blue Blazes are you going to do? I didn't know, but I knew that what I had done was be obedient, on what I was supposed to do. And within a few weeks after that, a person out of the blue in another community said, I hear you're the marketing queen, within a few weeks, and said,
right.
I've heard about you. The marketing you did at your store was incredible. Can you help me? And bam, that was it. And it went from there, and believe it or not, I have still to this day, I have books this thick of every single marketing event I ever did, and every single list of people that was invited to that. I had downloaded reports. I kept the journal for every single year for 10 years on what I did, how many people came, how much money I made, my every single possible thing I could write down, every meeting note that I made. Like, we always did a debriefing. What did you like? What did you not like? Employees would, give me notes. At everything. I still have that. Yeah. I still refer to that. So what I did and I think that's where we agree on the process is the planning, and it's the key to it all. It's
one of the things I guess with vendors and retailers as a whole, I'm just reading in between the lines here, but you and I've had enough conversations that I feel pretty confident saying this. It really is frustrating to me when I watch business owners, retailers, vendors flying by the seat of their pants and not having a plan, not having a roadmap of not only their business, but their life. And what do you want this to look like? And you've helped so many do that. Now, this year, I'm just listening. I'm as positive of a guy as you're going to get. And but this year, I'm hearing from vendors, retailers, various sources. 2023 could potentially, not saying that it will be, but could potentially be a bumpy ride for a lot of people, a lot of our friends, a lot of the people we care about in the jewelry business, whether that's due to inflation or supply or plants being shut down, the workforce. what should jewelers, vendors, retailers, what should they be doing to ensure instead of having these huge waves, having more of a easier time navigating the waters of what could be a bumpy ride? What would you recommend to them?
So, one of the first things I've done with all of my stores this year is I have put all of their numbers in a spreadsheet and tried to come up with a comparison to a bad year and done
Mhm.
some, in order for us to be better at forecasting the future, we need to know, where we've been and where we're going. And so the first thing is be prepared for the possibility. Um, a lot of times we want to say, let's increase our sales, our gross sales by 10%. Everybody wants to increase it 10% over last year. And then when they don't, they're like, it was the worst year ever. Well, it was the worst because you didn't plan for it. And
Mm.
in doing that, you're going to have to forecast. Like I pulled out numbers from 2008 and 2009. I took that as two bad years, really bad years for Wade Designs jewelry. And then I took the last 3 years, the 2022, 2021, and 2020. And I did an average of those for developing a forecasting of, the worst years and 3 good years combined together. And then came up with a gross sales budget and based on that. And that helped me not look about just exactly increasing over last year, but looking at a realistic possible view that we
Yes.
could, being a little more realistic in that view so that we're prepared financially to understand how
Mhm.
to forecast that overhead. Whether it's, your employees, and every single part of that from marketing to overhead, your payroll dollars is part of that, is to forecast that picture so that you're planning for the possibility. That's just my route that I go about it. Remember,
Mhm.
I have that creative marketing side that's matched with that financial side. And so it makes me go back to the basic numbers when I'm developing a plan.
There were so many gold nuggets of wisdom in what you have just elaborated on. I hope listeners, viewers, that you will go back, rewind this, go back and listen to that. I couldn't agree anymore. We're on the exact same page. Being marketing people, one of the things that could happen during the pandemic, one of the things that I personally noticed was everybody tended to pull back on their marketing. And
Mhm.
what happened was what I call the ostrich effect. They buried their heads in the sand. And
I saw
those
you
who,
type that this week. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and those who were wise, I know you were on this. I know others were on this. Those who were wise marketed strongly, marketed in very effective ways. They tested and tracked, and they essentially gobbled up market share and came out stronger. Um, would you say that would be a wise move for 2023?
Absolutely. Remember, buy low, sell high. That's how we make money. Okay. So, absolutely, when everybody thinks, that ostrich effect, when everybody is like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst year ever, and stick their head in the sand and, that sort of thing, that is not the route. Be consistent, know where you're spending it, and make those dollars matter. And I will tell you, it doesn't help that, like, one of the first things that I saw going right through January is people were canceling their social media plans because they thought, well, I'll just do it in house because I'm going to do 40 other jobs in house too, And I'm not saying that you can't do that, but if you've decided to
Right.
go off, and do everything yourself, because you're gonna work harder, add another hour to your day, then make sure that you have done the planning part of that. Because really, in my honest opinion, what what I do is develop a strong strategy. It's not just that I execute, social media or even any other form of marketing. It's the
Right.
strategy that matters, and making sure that you pay attention to where you can spend less but get more. Um,
Mm, yes.
and, one of the things that I was asked this week was about Google Ads. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, Google Ads are very, very expensive for the jewelry industry. And unless you have very deep pockets, you're going to get nothing. You're getting hardly any reaction, and your
Yeah.
website has to be fabulous.
Right. Yeah.
So it is not where I start people out. I mean, if you've got the money and can spend millions of dollars in ads to
Yes.
have a $10 million business or whatever that case may be, that's one thing. But it isn't the best arena for our small business retailers. It is not the best. Maybe you've had different experiences than I have, but um, it isn't
Well,
where I see the best coming from.
I don't disagree. And you and I both preach, and I say that literally. We both preach the omni-channel strategy. I think that
Right.
you need to be multiple places, and testing and tracking your marketing for ever increasing effectiveness is crucial. And I think one of the big takeaways I just got there is finding where you can do more with less that brings in more profit dollars to your jewelry business. Now, obviously, you help a lot of folks. You and I know that I recommend everybody have a firm grasp and understanding of marketing and the financials of your business and all that. But because there are different people at different levels in the business, and there are people who just have different skill sets, a lot of times we need help, and we need help doing social media or doing direct mail or doing all of these kind of things, because you remember very well, and I know I remember very well trying to wear all these different hats in the jewelry business. Not only can it be frustrating, debilitating, a lot of times you would really suffer from paralysis by analysis.
Yeah,
There's help out there.
there is.
So Rita has she has a wonderful team, and I admire what she does. I'm not going to steal her thunder here. I want her to tell you in her own words, how do you help? And I know you work with retailers, vendors. What all do you do, and how could you make a jeweler's life easier, more effective? And just tell us, what all do you do, Rita?
Well, I would say the number one area that I would start a client on today is coaching and consulting. I think
Mhm,
that is the
mhm,
number one place I like to start people. And even
mhm,
if you want 1 month, 3 months, a year,
mhm.
whatever you want that you feel like you would get what you needed out of it, I think that that interaction really helps every part of your experience. And it's no different than if you're playing a sport or you have learned an instrument, having a teacher and a coach that has done every single aspect of it and keeps you on your toes. Like the first question I ask what every single coaching and consulting appointment is, what were your sales last week? How many tickets? How many butts
Mhm.
in the door?
Yes.
Every single week I'm asking that question, and then we break it down to what that marketing was for that period of time so that we can
Right.
match it up. So the first thing that I always encourage is a coaching and consulting appointment, of which you offer as well. The second part of that is I do social media for both retail and vendors. So retailers and vendors, I provide
Mhm.
some great social media. I do have a team that works with me in my office. I wish she was here right now. And we try and we build the strategy 30 to 45 days in advance to tell your story. So different than just walking in the door every day. Your 18-year-old teenage needs a job and picks a piece of jewelry and puts it out there, misspells half the words, and wasn't even something that was a great choice for the day. They have no idea what the national holidays are, whether it's a holiday or at all, or why somebody would choose that piece of jewelry. And so for me, it's a strategy every day. We're analyzing. We knew by the second week of December what we were doing the first week of February. We already knew. We knew we were talking with our clients about Valentine's Day on week 2 of December.
Mm-hmm.
I got a plan sitting right here. And in that plan was what we discussed. And then I write that plan and type that out to that client every single appointment. And
that is amazing.
And I break it down every single appointment. I've broken it down to what those marketing agenda. I'm to May with one client. I'm already to May with one client. And then I break it down to what those advertising things are, how much we're going to spend on each of those sorts of things. So, let me recap. So first is certainly the coaching and consulting. Second is a strategy for your social media. And I do execute it. I write a lot of content. And thirdly is my events packages that I create for customers in creating these a complete full service events program. So whether it's a live show, which I host and produce, or it is a in-person event, and I have every part and piece for that, every single, from the social media to the postcards and to the goodie boxes. I've developed a program that has all the boxes. I don't have a box right in the moment, but every detail is in the box of what you are going to need, those swag boxes. And I have a partnership locally with that. So anyway, I do all those parts and pieces, but that's in a nutshell. That's what I do.
I think one of the amazing things, and we share friends and clients and folks, virtual selling. Oh my God. This is something I want to push so many jewelers into doing. And, many of them are intimidated by their cell phone, by the technology, just the thought of being in front of a camera. One of the neat things that Rita does that I admire is she helps jewelers put on their own private shopping show, if you will. And so if you've been thinking about sticking your toe in the water, if you will, you'll find out, come on in, the water is just fine. And if you are afraid to do these things, let me recommend Rita to you. She does a great job, and she's perfectly brilliant in what she does. So, Rita, how I think your insights are sparkling. So, how may people contact you and reach out to you?
So, the easiest way is to text or call me because most of the time there are a million questions. So I recommend just pick up the phone and call me. If I can't take your call right that moment, I always call you. Just leave me a message. I'll call you right back because I'm probably on the phone with a client. But my phone number is 252-314-1611. And I'm going to put that out there. I don't know if you'll 1611. I'll stick it out there, and maybe you can put it in on the screen. You can add it to the screen. But that's the first way. The second way is rita.sparklinginsights@gmail.com. I'll put that in the chat as well. So you can send me an email and I'll get that as well. But any Facebook Messenger through Jewelers Helping Jewelers, or my private group asked to join, a variety of ways you can get in touch with me. Obviously, mostly that text message is going to come the fastest. So I take them all the time, and I appreciate people just reaching out and asking questions. And there's no obligation. I want everybody to feel, and this is one thing I always tell people, I will give as much as I can for free to help the jewelry industry because I am a jeweler and I have been in your shoes. But sadly, unfortunately, we got to work for a living, Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
So, anyway.
Folks, I hope that you will take time, go back and listen to this. There have been so many gold nuggets of wisdom. I think that if you look really carefully here through this interview today, that you'll find some diamonds in the rough that if you will massage into your mind, I think you'll find some really profit-making, money-making tips today. Rita, thank you for being on the Diamond Mind.
I thank you so much. I'm delighted and ecstatic that you invited me, and I appreciate that so much. And I always welcome, I will do one and invite you at some point. And I need to hear your story originally. Of course, I've read your book.
Well, that would be great. And I'd love to be your guest. So thank you again. And friends, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Diamond Mind Podcast Show. Make sure that you listen to this as well as several of the other episodes. And listen, until the next time, keep building your ultimate jewelry business so that you, and I do mean you, may live your ultimate dream lifestyle. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Diamond Mine Podcast, the ultimate revenue building and profit inducing podcast. For more of wisdom and profit gems, join Jeweler Success, Bill's free Facebook group, and be sure to get Bill's wildly popular books, The Fastest Way to a Full Recovery, 5 immediate profit enhancing strategies jewelers can use today to create a thriving business, and the Ultimate Jeweler Success Guide, 7 strategies to significantly increase revenue and boost profits. And finally, if you really want to supercharge your growth, join Diamond Bill's Ultimate Jewelers Mastermind Group. For full details, go to diamondbillmarketing.com. That's diamondbillmarketing.com. See you on the next Diamond Mine Podcast.